Hey everybody, today we're going to do a little video on triangle shawls, and you should be seeing a couple of pictures of some shawls that I have made. And the yarn that I'm going to be using for my little samples today, this first one is a mulberry merino yarn, and it is 50% merino wool and 50% mulberry silk. And I'm also going to use Patton's classic wool. And the needles that I will be using are Knitter's Pride Cubics. These are US size 10 and a half. And there's more than one way to do a triangle shawl. And this video is just going to cover triangles from the bottom up, meaning you start with a couple stitches at the bottom and then increase so that your shawl grows outward. And the way that I did it on my shawls was I just knit the first stitch of every row and then made a yarn over, as you can see here, and then just finished knitting all the way across the row. Both of mine are just in garter stitch, and I'm not sure what this yarn is. I think it was maybe Karen Simply Soft, and the other one I'm just not sure. It was so long ago that I made these. But anyway, so we're going to do, like I said, triangles from the bottom up. And the first way I'll show you is how I did my shawls with the yarn overs. And then we'll do a couple other different ways that you can make your bottom up triangle shawls. Yarn here. And if you're not sure what yarn and needles to use, really you could use anything you want. A good place to start, if you're not sure, is just go and find some yarn that you like and use the suggested needle size on the ball band of the yarn. And if you want a looser fabric for your shawl, go up a needle size, or if you want a more dense fabric, go down a needle size. So you might have to swatch to get a fabric that you like, or you can just go with whatever needle the yarn calls for and call it a day. So I'm just going to cast on 3 stitches here, and you can use any cast on you like. I usually just do long tail, and then I'm going to just knit my first row. And then I'm going to turn, and I'll begin making my yarn over increases. So I'm going to knit the first stitch, yarn over, and then knit the last 2 stitches. So turn the work, knit the first stitch, yarn over, and knit to the end. And that's all you really have to do. You just knit 1, yarn over, and knit to the end of your row until the shawl is as big as you want, and then you just bind off. You can use any bind off you like. I usually just do the regular old standard knitted bind off. When you're doing a shawl, you will need to use circular needles. If you try to make a shawl on straight needles, chances are you are going to run out of room on your needle, and the circular needles will accommodate all of the stitches that you're going to end up with by the time you're done with your shawl. You probably would want to use at least a 32-inch circular needle. And again, it depends on what the weight of your yarn is that you're knitting with. You might need something longer than a 32-inch. But I'm just going to say minimum 32-inch needles. So as you can see, this is really simple. All I'm doing is just knitting. And I think that a triangle shawl is a good project for a beginner because you don't have to worry about gauge. And you don't have to do anything fancy. You can just do a plain old garter stitch and it still looks really nice, in my opinion. And you don't have to worry about doing anything special. You just knit and make a yarn over. They're also good projects for experienced knitters because you don't have to worry about gauge and you can just pick up your project and sit down and watch TV or listen to an audiobook or I don't know, anywhere really. And you can just knit and you don't have to worry about making mistakes. If you're an experienced knitter, you probably don't even have to watch your hands while you knit. Okay, so anyway, that's all there is to it. And when you get to the point where your shawl is as big as you want it to be, you would just bind off. Obviously, yours would be much bigger than mine is here. I don't know, maybe Barbie could wear this. Oops. But there's really not a whole lot that goes into a bottom-up triangle shawl. Let me just grab these last couple stitches and bind off. And then, well, I'm not going to, of course, but when you get to the end of your yarn and all the stitches are bound off, you would cut the yarn, or maybe you're at the end of your yarn and there's really not much to cut, but you would just pull your last stitch through and weave in any loose ends. And depending on what kind of yarn you use, you might want to block it just to make it look a little bit neater. But that is one way to do a triangle shawl. Another way you can do your increases with a yarn over is to make your yarn overs before you knit your first stitch. And you get these really, really pretty loops along the sides of your work. So let me just show you how you would make a yarn over at the beginning of the row. So here's your working yarn. Instead of going in to knit your first stitch, you just grab that working yarn with your needle and then pull it around to make your first knit stitch. So there's your yarn over, and then there's your knit stitch. And it's the same as before. You would just knit until you get to the end of your row. And then turn, make your yarn over, knit to the end of the row, and again you would just knit until the shawl is as big as you want it to be, and then bind off. So that gives you a little bit of a different look with the yarn overs. Okay, we're going to this time cast on 5 stitches, And we're still going to do the yarn over increases. Okay, so I have my 5 stitches cast on, and I'm going to just knit my first row. I guess you could start off with your increases already in the first row, but I don't know, no rhyme or reason, I just always knit my first row. No wrong way to do this, whatever makes you happy. It's only yarn. The knitting police aren't going to come after you. Okay, so this time I'm going to knit 3 stitches before I make my yarn over. There's my 3 knits, yarn over, and then knit my last 2. And turn, knit 3, yarn over, turn, knit 3, knit to the end, and you guessed it, turn and knit 3, yarn over and knit to the end, it's going to take a while before you see your shawl take shape this way. So the bottom of this one is not as pointy as the one where we only cast on 3 stitches. If you wanted to, you could even start out with just 1 stitch, but I like to start out with at least 3. Probably wouldn't want to do any more than 5 stitches. I mean, it depends on how you want the bottom of your shawl to look. Of course, it's all up to you. You can do it any way you want. There's no right or wrong way. Okay, I've worked a few more rows on this, and now you can really see how we have our yarn overs going up along the sides here, and then we have our center panel here, and then our border on each side, which is a lot wider than when we just knit 1 stitch and made our yarn overs like in the first sample. So I think that looks pretty neat. And I think you get the idea with yarn overs at this point. So maybe you don't want such obvious increases like the yarn overs in your shawl. You can do any increase you want, really. There are so many out there. You just take your pick, whatever one you like best, whichever one's easiest for you. What I've been doing here is the knit front and back. So I'm just going to knit my first stitch. Then into the next stitch I'm going to knit to the front, leave the stitch on the needle, and knit into the back. And there is my increase. And then just knit to the end of the row. And just keep working that way until your shawl is as big as you want it to be. Knit one, knit front and back, and knit to the end. So I won't bore you with other increases. You can just, like I said, pick any one that you like. Do the yarn overs, do the knit front and back, make one left, make one right, I don't know, whatever increase that you like to do. And just work until your shawl is as wide as you want it to be. Bind off, weave in your loose ends, and block it if you choose. And that's really all there is to bottom up triangle shawls.